Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This week is a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Hit Monkey Season 2, Episode 4. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, Bryce, now in his human body, immediately tries to make things right with Iris, but despite his explanation, it doesn't serve anything. You know, he tries to apologize. He says, like, right, I tried to stay away from you, try to protect you. I was an assassin. I did what I did to stay away from you and your mom because that would have put you guys in danger. So, but for Iris, it's like none of that means anything. It's a little too late because it doesn't make up for the fact is he wasn't there for like 20 years of her life. So it's that thing where like Bryce kind of falls back into his habit. He's drinking, he's gambling, and trying to fall back into it. This season 2 has shown like, right, he did a lot of growing last season after everything. He's still a little bit of that dick he was, but especially with the Iris stuff has really reverted him back to just being a selfish person. But it's like trying to be selfless in his selfishness of, I'm trying to make things right with my daughter, but this is all I mean, this is what he wanted to begin with, but now it's like, well, you got the ticking clock of, well, you've only got a certain amount of time to come back to life as a human, but also the element of, you've also got your deal with the devil, so there's a lot, which I haven't talked about too. Like, he hasn't told Monkey how this came to be. Even Monkey asked him, he's like, don't worry about it. I don't know how it happened because he doesn't want to admit to Monkey that he's using him, which is so ironic later on because he gets so pissy about like Monkey kind of abandoning him and he's worried about that, but it's like you are using him without telling him what's what, I mean, because Monkey would not be too copacetic about you using him in this capacity, and when he finds out, it's probably going to be pissed. It's like, you're still doing what you're doing, just he doesn't know that there's an extra slice to this whole equation of why you're pushing for him to do the whole killer of killers thing, even though he understands it's his purpose. He understands that, but a lot of that drive and that passion and the purpose behind it is kind of gone now. It's just, once again, you're just kind of doing it just to do it, which the whole point Bryce told him about the killing thing was like, you never want to become numb to it, which obviously Monkey isn't numb to it. It's just kind of like, it just seems senseless and pointless. At least everything had a purpose last season, and it just feels purposeless now, unless it's with, as they refer to him as the co-op, the assassins group. So I also feel bad for Bryce because he fell asleep. He ended up burning through 12 of his hours. I was like, yikes, dude, that sucks. Well, he didn't really. It was like, yeah, kids, he did. I was about to say because because by the end of the episode, he's right at the 24-hour mark, and also because of what the devil says, like he can turn it on and off, which is I like the utilization of that, which is kind of pretty neat. It kind of reminds me of, it's an anime reference to make. I can't remember. I think it started off as a manga. I think it was a manga first and then it was an anime. I don't remember. I haven't checked in on the series in so long. I know it's done, but it's just like, it's been so long since I saw it. Was it Chrono Crusade? Was that the series? But basically, like, there's these two people connected, and it's a clock that's kind of connected through time. And, like, the more power it's used, the more it eats away at the life force and time of another person. It's kind of like that. So it made me think of that. I haven't watched an anime in so long. I think it was Chrono Crusade. I can't remember its name off the top of my head. Just looked it up. Yes, it was Chrono Crusade. I'm surprised I remembered it. I remember Chrono, but I couldn't remember the Crusade. But I was like, I'm surprised I remember that after all these years. Nevertheless, like I said, I was just making a parallel between a circumstance in that show and the whole situation with Bryce. So, obviously, Haruka has tracked down another member of the Aldermen. The fact is that it's like, this is a financial hedge fund group that's connected to some of the other deceased aldermen. And it's like, right, we found our next target. Her and Monkey want to go to the co-op because they believe in this cause, they believe in it. But Bryce thinks it's BS. It's like, yo, I'm back in the flesh. Let's do this. I'll show you how it's done. You would think Bryce would be a little rusty, which he is. I mean, we don't know how much Bryce has dealt with, like, the craziness that is. I mean, he has his interactions with superpowers and stuff in this world, but, like, the fact is they had trouble with this alderman because this alderman pulls a Nick Cage from Next. I've seen that movie like once, but it like that I wonder, is that the inspiration for this villain, or does this villain exist in the comics or not? Because that's just interesting, because like that's the only thing I can think of that, like, because if I remember correctly, his thing specifically was like only 2 minutes into the future, right? Short future sight, which is like, oh, that's so interesting. I feel like it was specifically 2 minutes too. That's why I felt like it's very Nick Cage next inspired. But like I said, maybe this is a character from the comics that was inspired by that or predates it, whatever the case may be. But yeah, our monkey squad went on their own and does not do well. I mean, Homedew transforms. He kind of looks like something out of Devil May Cry, the way his form looks, because he's like the third eye and everything, but it becomes one giant eye, which kind of makes me almost, I mean, with the whole being able to see the future thing, it also makes me think of like the Sisters of Fate, specifically the ones from the Disney Hercules movie and TV show, just with the whole like all three sisters sharing the one eyeball, kind of made me think of that. But yeah, like nothing they do, shooting at him, slashing at him, punching at him, he's able to counter everything that comes their way. And so it's like, how do you fight someone who can literally see 2 minutes into the future? So even like he can predict even Bryce being a ghost. I mean, granted, like he still needs to shift back into a human. So it does make you wonder, is Bryce as a ghost something he wouldn't be able to predict? But he can predict, because the moment Bryce wants to hit him, he has to like solidify himself in a human body. So, I mean, even if he didn't, because like even if Bryce stayed a ghost and used like his ghost telekinesis, it would still be a situation of he'd still be able to predict the objects flying his way. So like none of that would probably count for anything. So Bryce would still be screwed no matter what he did. So luckily the co-op showed up in time before things got serious. But the problem is the alderman gets away, and they apparently knew exactly where he was. It's not like they really had any countermeasure against him, but it's still the thing of, now that he knows we're on his trail, at least he didn't know we knew about him. Now he knows, so he's going to jet out of town. So you guys have kind of screwed the pooch. And it's like, well, Bryce being the dick, not kind of like looking at these guys as like, oh, these guys are punks. They don't know what they're doing. I even love telling Dot, being like, oh, don't you have a house to go hunt? And he's like, don't you have a dollhouse to hunt or something? She's like, no, and puts her on their headphones. But you know, Haruka and Monkey are pissed at Bryce because they're like, right, Haruka in particular calls him out for being a selfish prick who doesn't care about anything. And it's like, once again, it's just, he's in a hurry to get back to, well, at this point, he thinks it's too late. He's like, who cares? I've screwed the pooch with my daughter. She wants nothing to do with me. This was all for naught. So who cares? And it's like, oh, and he does feel like pissed that he kind of lets them down. Once again, he doesn't always show it, but he's a lot more caring than he lets on. He's created this image of who he wants to be and who he is. And it's like, basically, you've worn this mask for so long as Bryce, this douchebag hitman, that you can't shake it, because it's just become a lot of who you are. Because who you were beforehand, before Elwyn and everything, the moment you picked up that gun and shot him accidentally, it shifted you into the man you are today, when you had to run away and leave your family behind. But anyway, he introduces Monkey and Haruka to Snail, which I thought that was kind of pretty neat. He can slow down time, but the problem is, as he slows down time, it ages him, which I'm like, oh, the dual side to that ability sucks ass. It's like, I love, because at first I was like, I love the display before he even figures it, explains it, because it's like, great, his beard starts growing, his fingernails are growing. I was like, oh, that sucks so much. It's a great ability if you're kind of like a shifty person trying to like throw matches and stuff like that in your favor and win. It's great, but just like, yeah, it expedites your life. It makes you wonder, how old is Snail actually, you know? Obviously he's not that, there's very little that will get him motivated in helping fight some bad guy, but it's like, cool, you owe me because I killed your ex-wife's lawyer. And it's just kind of like, that must have been a whole ordeal, and Snail must have been able to keep some alimony or something, or whatever the case may be, for him to just be like, oh, okay, fine, Bryce, I'll help you out, you know? So I also love the aspect of like, right, you have to spit. he has to like use some kind of mucus or whatever. He puts it on some mouth guards and gives it to everybody because it makes him immune to his time stopping ability. Marvel related wise, I don't think she's from the comics. I think she's from like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. original. It does kind of, it's not the same, but I was like, right, it kind of, the limitations and aspects of like Yo-Yo's abilities, it just made me think of Yo-Yo a little bit because, she eventually removed the limiters from her power, but she had a whole drawback to her ability initially. But either way, I don't know, it just Marvel related wise, it's not even a direct parallel, but it just popped in my head of like, oh yeah, like Yo-Yo's interesting. And if you're not aware, like Yo-Yo is basically a speedster, but her speedster like powers came with like a massive like limitation. Either way, I won't go into it. I've talked about it in other stuff, but either way, but yeah, like the assassins try to go after this alderman, blew up in their faces too, but luckily our squad shows up and is kicking major ass. And then we're kind of winning for the most part. Haruka and Bryce are trying to get everyone away, especially Stone Lady, but she's super heavy. But the problem is that during that fight is Snail does not want to like stay involved in this shit because it's like, right, he's getting older and older by the second, and so Bryce had to pay him off by giving him the last bit of his own money, the one that he just made $30K for his daughter, and Bryce ended up saving the day, which is so interesting, and he gets none of the praise for it, even though it was 100% Bryce. And I guess because they weren't aware of it, because time was still frozen, well, time was still slow at that time, so none of them like recognize what happened. Like the last person that goes toe to toe with him is Monkey, and Bryce didn't say anything. It does suck. It was, for one, it was Bryce's idea to bring in Snail, and it was also Bryce that actually beat him. But I guess Monkey got all the accolades because they were fighting each other last minute, and they think he did. So I don't know, because he's the one being welcomed into the organization. And even later on, Bryce was talking to Iris. He's like, right, I wasn't honest with you. I stayed away. It wasn't for your safety. It was just easier because I was a coward. The fact is that I drowned myself in vices just so I wouldn't feel anything, to the point now I didn't feel anything anymore. I stopped caring, but I do now because I'm so scared of being alone. He literally went to hell and came back through all of this, and it puts things in perspective for you, because he was so alone, but he drowned himself in his vices, and now he's out on the other side of those vices to some extent, and at least he had Monkey, but now Monkey's being taken away from him. He's like, now for a moment I'm starting to feel a sliver of what I did to you, and he's like, I know I'm not going to apologize or ask for forgiveness because I can't make up for all that I've taken from you, but it's just like I'm just going to leave you alone. But she appreciates him being open and honest, and also, hey, not trying to bring me a bag of money, which was his initial plan. So like I said, it's sad because he's getting closer to his daughter, but the whole situation is drifting him further from Monkey, because that's also, as Bryce had put it like the other episode, it's like, right, we're a duo, semi-trio with Haruka, but this has kind of been this whole adventure, and now it's like you're one real friend, because he'd even said that with her. It's like, I lived this life thinking I had all these friends, and I didn't. No one was really his friend. These are people, these are business associates. We're all scumbags, thieves, looking out for ourselves, pretending friendship and association, but it's just a business transaction. It's always transactional, And so he's never had a real friend until Monkey, and that's extenuating circumstances that brought them together, and now extenuating circumstances are pulling them apart. It's like, yeah, Monkey's so caught up with them. It's like, yeah, he doesn't even care about me anymore. He found kindred spirits, because Bryce isn't all about the mission that the assassins are, but Monkey feels a kinship with them, one that he hasn't felt with Bryce, as he's kind of lost some of that luster for the killer of killers thing. So I also thought this was interesting. I forgot to talk about it during their first encounter with that alderman, that Bryce got shot, but he still got up. So because his body, so he's not killable, it seems. I mean, who knows? Who knows the extent of he got shot, but he just ghosted up and the bullets fell out the body. And the moment he solidified himself, I was trying to say re-solidify. When he re-solidified as a human being, his wounds had closed up. So I'm like, I don't know if he's like a zombie. Would he die from a bullet to the brain, or is he kind of immortal? Like if you sliced him up, would he, like, how would that work? Would he go, would he have like a Deadpool or Logan healing? I'm curious the extent he could like recover. That is kind of interesting. Some other angles to the episode. Well, staying in the realm of all that, we had the situation with the devil. He's got an I don't know if it's like a heaven versus hell thing, or whether there's like turf war in hell, but he's preparing for a fight and they need more soldiers, and he's like, yeah, I've got something that's going to be sending more boots our way. So I don't know if that's probably a thing of with the 24 hours left, the devil's going to be like, oh, I can give you more time, but you're going to have to give me more. So what that, well, Bryce being what he is, like, now that he's human again, he can just use that for the, right, rather than waiting for Hitmonkey to do stuff, he can just handle stuff himself. So maybe that's where that comes into play. And now it's like, right, he even said, the price is going to be something you're not going to want to give up. So I'd said at the time maybe Monkey, but they're kind of on the outs, and that'll probably play into part of the story of him willing to give up Monkey now that he's got his daughter back. And it's like, you'll have an extended life, I'll give you extra time on a clock. Maybe, who knows? But that, once again, that fine print, and there's always the devil's in the details type of situation. So we'll see what that transpires, and what that, first and foremost, what this battle in hell is all about. Like I said, if that's a heaven versus hell thing, or whether it's a hell versus hell thing. But also, we catch up with Akiko, who is hunting Hitmonkey. And I thought it was interesting when she was confronting those guys, and she like had her reservations about like pulling a weapon on them after she threw like the first needle out. But the guy kind of noticed her just backing away, which I thought was interesting. But so she isn't like the trained killer. She does seem like, well, once again, we haven't seen what she's been up to for these 4 months. So Home Dude comes after her because he's like, yeah, I know the real Lady Bullseye is dead, but I'll make a name for myself by keeping your secret and cutting off your head and killing you, and I'll be the one that killed Lady Bullseye. And it's kind of a rough sequence to look at. Kind of goes full Shining, kind of Johnny. It's here's Johnny type of situation as he breaks through the door, her head hitting against, like, what was it, the toilet? It's like, Jesus. Him trying to strangle her, like she's biting his fingers and he's just like taking it. And then she reaches for a piece of like the broken toilet. I was like, oh, she's not being able to reach it. And then there was green glow to it. I was like, that's not her power or anything. I was like, there's a ghost here. I was like, who is it? At first I was like, part of me was kind of wondering, like, is it going to be her uncle? But no, turns out it's the real Lady Bullseye, which makes a lot of sense. I wonder, did she, because at first I was wondering, like, could she actually not see her? Was this the first time she's seen her? I highly doubt it. Probably the moment she was in the morgue with her and her uncle's body. That's probably when she first saw Lady Bullseye. So that's definitely going to be interesting to see. That's a nice, interesting wrinkle I wasn't expecting. That's probably why she decided to take up the mantle. So what has... Like, the fact is that Akiko didn't do anything in that moment. Like during when she was initially dealing with those guys, like even she kind of has her code, like she's going after Hitmonkey and that's it. That's probably in her mind, it's like, I'll kill him and only him, but she kind of had no choice with that situation. It was self-defense. She threw up in the sink, but that could have just been like, either that was just her just being sick to her stomach. She did bite the dude's hand and blood was probably all in her mouth, so it could be a culmination of two. But I wonder, is that the first person she's killed since taking up the Lady Bullseye moniker? Because it also prevents other people, like, you get a lot of sway of, like, where you can go, because people are like, oh, shit, it's Lady Bullseye, so you wouldn't actually have to kill anyone. So this might have been the first time she's ever had to do it since taking up the mantle, or just do it in general, because she never did it at all. Well, we know Ozu is dead, so even though it was her uncle behind everything, like, maybe she's the one that killed him, but, you know, because Japan's in its, like, situation with the criminal world kind of running rampant. So I wonder, has that ever, like, has there been a Has that been nipped in the bud, or is that still just running rampant? Because we haven't found out like what's going on that front. So some very, very interesting developments, a lot of questions. We've only got one alderman left, which is so interesting considering we're at the halfway, we're almost at the halfway point for the season. So for us to already be down to like the last alderman is interesting. Like I said, the assassin group is going to have to be like, there's going to be a bad seed amongst them or something. Like, it's not going to work out. I've had that feeling since their introduction. But also you throw in the Akiko of it all, the Brights and the Devil situation. There's a lot of moving pieces. It doesn't seem like it's all connected, but maybe all those threads will ultimately connect and collide. Just what the end result will be and how we get there, it's going to be interesting to see. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.